Hi guys, I am back on the moor today. It's really sunny, it's a lovely day. I showed my stigma video to one of my friends and she had a bit of feedback and I wanted to address that. So the first thing was that at some point I say you don't want to tell people that there's something wrong with you. I realised that could be a bit confusing and I just meant you don't want to have to tell people that you have an illness, because that's what it is. So please just bear that in mind. Okay, so I had been planning to talk about this a bit, but having spoken to my friend, she wanted me to kind of expand on it a little bit, and we had a big discussion last night, and I thought I would pass it on. So I've said in my previous videos that I find it really difficult to open up to people and that I don't like to talk to people, and quite often I just want people to leave me alone. And she wanted to know what she can do as somebody who cares for people who have mental health problems to help them. And through the course of the discussion, I kind of came up with two answers to the question. Now, it's really important for you to remember that I am talking about this from my point of view, from my experience. It may be totally different to somebody else's, and you know, that's just what I'm doing here. I'm just talking about my own experience. So if your experience is different, then please do let me know, you know, let people know. The more we know about it, the better. So the two answers that I came up with were kind of revolved around the situation. So there's two sorts of situations that I'm talking about in this instance. And the first one is crisis. So crisis is when you are just unable to help yourself. You just can't. You're curled up in a ball, or just carrying on, your mind's completely blank, you just can't think straight, you can't help yourself, you can't look after yourself, you're not showering, you're not getting up, you're not eating properly, you want to potentially kill yourself, you're self-harming, you just are in a really bad way. And in that situation, when I was in that situation, and when I have panic attacks now, which is essentially a mini crisis, the last thing that I want to do is talk about it and make decisions. Like, even making a decision that is as simple as breathe properly is really difficult. So the example that I told my friend was, when I'm having a panic attack, my brain just fogs up with whatever it is that's going on. I talked in a previous video about how I feel like I have fire in my brain, and that's the feeling that I get when I have a panic attack. And you're just so focused on the fact that you're going to die. In my case, you know, I'm so focused on the fact that I can't breathe and I can't move, my heart's going to stop, and I'm going to die, that actually listening to anybody else and following instructions or answering questions or anything like that is just impossible. And in that situation, there are only a few people who've ever had to deal with this with me, and one of them is my boyfriend, and he has had to learn, because I've had a lot of panic attacks around him. He has gradually learned that rather than asking me questions, asking me if I'm okay, asking if I want a cup of tea, asking if it'll help if I go outside or if I can sit up, because in my case I will normally lie down. I feel much safer when I'm lying down. That just perpetuates the anxiety and the panic, and he's had to learn to just stop asking and to just make me do stuff. So he'll physically force me to sit up, and he'll sit there and he'll be like until I start breathing with him, because slow breathing is one of the things that helps you to get out of the panic. And then when I've stopped having like an active panic attack, it then takes me probably about half an hour, 45 minutes to recover to the point where I'm able to talk about stuff. And normally the first thing that I'll say is I'm really sorry, because I always am very sorry that it's happened and that he's had to deal with yet another thing. And at that point I can start kind of taking control of myself again. Obviously a panic attack isn't the only thing that can happen. Like, if you're in crisis by way of you are planning to kill yourself, or you're just in so much mental anguish that you're sobbing uncontrollably, or just hiding away from the world or whatever, and you're unable to take the decision for yourself, in that situation, as a family or friend, I would suggest that you call in a professional. It did happen to me. I was taken to A&E several times by my boyfriend, and I spent several nights in hospital bed, just coming away from the brink of jumping into the River Thames, essentially. And there wasn't really anything that he could have done other than what he did, which was take me to a unit and say, this person needs help and I'm not equipped to deal with it. And, you know, it can be very difficult to, as a carer of somebody, to make that decision, but they're not able to make it for themselves. So if they're in that position, the best thing that you can do is just make a decision and then follow it through. It can be really difficult. You can find yourself in that position if you don't want to be. I'm sure there were times when the people who were with me, it was John and this one other particular friend, who they were taking me to hospital appointments and the crisis centre and all sorts of things, and they had other things to do. They both had jobs, they were both very, very busy people, and it was probably the biggest pain in the ass ever for them to have to deal with it. And at the time I was just so like, just leave me alone. If, you know, leave me alone. I don't want you to have to deal with this. I would rather just not make you deal with it. And they stuck with it and followed it through, and I thanked them as much as I could afterwards. And it can be quite a tough thing to do, but maybe that's the best thing that you can do if you really don't know what else to do. The other situation that we talked about was when you're not in crisis, so just on a day-to-day basis, just normal day-to-day living. And this kind of follows up again with something I said in that stigma video, which is that you are not your mental illness, it doesn't define you, and people start to treat you differently, which is wrong. And my friend pointed out that actually you do treat people differently, but it's not necessarily always wrong. Like, if she used the example of being a vegan, like if she found out that I was a vegan, she would think differently about me, because she would have to consider where I wanted to eat or what I wanted to, you know, have for dinner, or would she be able to eat meat in front of me and whatever. So once somebody opens up about something like that, which can be a very big part of their life, then you do treat them differently. And I guess what I meant by treating them differently in the context of that previous video is kind of shunning them, or you know, not wanting anything to do with them, thinking that they're just a bad person, essentially. So I guess the treating differently bit as a non-crisis thing would be to just make sure that people know that you're there if they want to open up to you. If I'm not feeling great and people who I am open with about this ask me about it, and I'm not in a place where I can talk about it in that particular moment, then the more they ask about it, the more frustrated and angry I get. And I get angry, I snap at people, and I'm just like, just leave me alone, like I don't want to talk about it. And you probably just upset everybody if you just carry on asking, even though it's with the best intentions, because you've got to accept that in that situation maybe the person can't talk about it. So make it really obvious that you're there for them if they want to, and then just sort of back off and try to just treat them normally. Like, instead of coming along and being like, hey, how are you feeling, you know, is everything okay, have you taken your medication, have you been to see your therapist recently, how's your doctor going, you know, do things like, hey, how you doing, have you done any knitting today? That's obviously a specific example. Or have you done anything fun recently, or whatever, and just try to kind of carry a conversation. Or something like that, you know, just try to be as normal as possible. And then when somebody does come to you for help, if they mean to, then obviously offer it, and listen. And I guess one of the things that I find really difficult when I'm talking to somebody is I'm saying, if I talk to them and then they keep offering me solutions, sometimes I don't want a solution, sometimes I just need to talk about it. Like, if I say I'm finding it really difficult to get up today, then somebody starts going, oh, set your alarm, make sure you go to bed early, make sure that you drink loads of water before bed, so you need the loo when you wake up and all that. You know, sometimes that's not helpful. Sometimes you just want somebody to say, oh, I'm really sorry to hear that, can I do anything? No, all right, cool, let's carry on. You know, it's that kind of thing. It's a really difficult one. I guess that's like when you're just trying to chit-chatting in a normal day-to-day situation, and for me, with my social anxiety, it's really important to me that people know when to back off. like when I was talking about that Christmas party that we always go to where I always go and nap. I'm kind of pleased that people just leave me to it. And my friend was saying to me, if I'm in a social situation with her and she sees that I'm struggling, does she want me to go with her? What's the best thing to do? And in my personal situation, the best thing that I can do is go and lie down and listen to some Harry Potter and sleep for half an hour. Half an hour tends to be my kind of golden time slot. Like if I'm having trouble, if I can have half an hour to just kind of deal with my brain a little bit, then that really helps. And I guess that's mostly what I think I have to say. You know, I can't teach people how to be friends and how to have relationships. You know, if I knew that, then I'd be in a much better situation than I am. But those are just the little things that help me, and there's obviously a grey area between crisis and non-crisis where maybe somebody needs your help with making certain decisions but they're okay to do other things, and that grey area is very difficult to manage both as a carer and as a person who's experiencing the problem. Like if somebody says to me, do you want me to make dinner, and I'm like, yes, I really need you to make dinner, then I'm kind of asking for that help so I can make the decision that yes, I really need help making dinner. And this is something that happens regularly with me because it's just one of those things that I really struggle with, making dinner, which is why I've picked it as an example. If somebody says, can I make dinner for you, and I say yes please, and then they're like, okay, what do you want? And I'm like, well, if I knew what I wanted, then I would probably be doing it myself, you know. They say, do you want an apple or a pear? I'm like, I don't care, give me one and I'll eat it. So that is a bit of a grey area, and if anybody has any more specific questions, then do ask. It's quite difficult to talk about this stuff without having specific questions in front, like a little monologue about it, because maybe maybe things are coming out wrong and all that stuff. So I'm going to leave it here for today, and I hope that you found this useful. If you have any comments, then do leave them in the box below. I've left my email address in the box below as well. There are loads and loads of organisations that can help you both as a carer and as somebody who has mental health issues. So do go and check out all the links in the box below, and I will see you guys soon. Bye!